What's the deal? It's your boy J Mike, Mr. Athletic, over everything for no hobbies, only obsessions. This hat will be available on the website athletikovereverything.com. As we know, we spend a little too much money for this to be just a hobby. It has to be a little bit of an obsession. But tonight I wanted to share with you guys some of the latest or last purchases for 2023, and also my mindset going into 2024 in terms of purchasing and also upgrading your collection as you go along. When I got back into the hobby back in 2010, it happened because the NFL was doing the top 100 player list. And I called myself going after the top 100 players. And originally it was something just to put into my bar area. But what happened is I wound up liquidating my entire sneaker collection. I didn't know that people bought used shoes at the time. So I had hundreds of pairs of Jordans and made a shitload of money selling them. And what wound up happening is the money was in my eBay during this time, and I wind up basically spending, $12,000, $13,000 on sport cars over that period of time. And that turned out to be a bunch of Kobe rookies, a bunch of cars that when 2020 hit was able to make a pretty good penny on. But one of the things that I tried to do when I set off getting or collecting the top 100 football players was just to get a card of each of the players. Now, at the time, I wasn't too up on the graded card thing, didn't understand it. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that as I started buying cards, I wanted one just to represent one of the players. So the initial thing was to get into the game. Because if you have a card, you can always get a better card or a higher graded card. But in order to get into the game, you actually needed the card established. So as I collect now, I'm going into different avenues in terms of what I'm choosing to collect. Am I going after player runs like I'm going after Gail Sayers, OJ Simpson? Those are two of the players that I've um, pointed out as players that I want to go after their complete player run. Also, I can't forget um, Monty Irving is another player that I'm going after his entire run. So those are the three cards or three people that I'm going into 2024 with an eye on catching all of their cards. So, uh, and also, I guess you can look at like a guy like Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, finding those player runs, especially the top player runs, are pretty much what I'm going to go after going forward. Tonight, I'm going to show you guys the last three cars that I gotten that will be purchased this year, and then I'll go after and show you where I'm at with my collecting going forward. So let's see where we're at. Now the lighting should be much better tonight. All right. So first off, what we have here is Joe Montana's. Hold on. Make sure I have my ducks in order. Okay. So what we have here is we have Joe Montana's second year card and a PSA 7. Now, this was purchased before I kind of changed how I wanted to go about my collecting. So if I was buying this card now, with the eyes that I use now, I would not purchase this card. Slightly off center from left to right. But it's a placeholder. It puts me in the game in the Joe Montana card run. So I have his rookie card. Now I have a second year card, and more than likely they have some inaction cards and things of that nature along the way. But until I find those cards, just getting one puts me in the game. Also, vintage and older cards are just a little more safe. There's some people out there have no problems with this card. They'll be perfectly fine with this card. So I don't think buying something like this is a bad thing. I think it's a little more safe. So that's how I'm viewing this now, right? So Joe Montana, and next up we have the OJ Simpson 1977, All Pro card. Now, um, he has a bunch of league leader cards. OJ Simpson was that dude back in the day, So he has a bunch of league leader cards, touchdown leader cards, and stuff of that nature. So I'm going after them, especially because his cards are really nowhere near what his accolades are. Heisman Trophy winner, first player to ever rush for 2,000 yards, still has the rushing all-time rushing record to this day, and he did it in 14 games. So the fact that I'm doing the O.J. Simpson run, this was a necessity. Now, if you notice right here, the case came cracked. It got delivered today by UPS, and it was cracked. So I'm talking to the consigner that I got it from, trying to see if they'll go ahead and give me some money back on my card. They're talking about they'll get it reholdered by SGC. I'm like, well, just send me $15 back on it, and I'll get it reholdered. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a good grade on the card. Uh, Got it for a decent price. I believe it's like $40 all in, and normally these were going for like 50, $60. So it's kind of like I'd rather keep the card. But the case is compromised, so I don't know how that'll work going forward, right? Now, last but not least, we have an Elvin Hayes 1976 Tops. These are the jumbo cards. And a lot of times, you can find these at a pretty good price. I believe, if I'm not wrong, David Thompson's rookie card is 1976 Tops as well, which is a cool looking card. These were in very high grade. I really didn't plan on winning this card. I just put a soft bid out there, and it wound up hitting. But this right here is something that I would not buy going forward unless it was just like a crazy, crazy good price. Now, if I paid $10, $12 for this, that would be fine. But I think I paid close to $35 for it. And, $35 could be, $35 towards a Monty Irvin 1951 rookie card, So I'm viewing the collection going forward like that to minimize how much is actually being spent. Now, these are the last three cards, I believe. I may have one more group of cards that have to be. Actually, I do. I have one more shipment of cards that will be coming in over the next couple of days. But I want to give you guys also a different look at, how and things that I'm going after. With rookie cards, there's certain cards that that's their rookie card once you see it. You don't have to know the year the player was. You just seen the card so often that you actually know that is their rookie card. I think if you went that route with some of these vintage cards or older cards, go after the staple cards. I don't think you can go wrong with that. And I'm gonna give you guys an example. Some of these cards is so fickle in how people are so locked into certain grades of cards or whores for certain brands and certain companies. When you can buy a PSA 6, you send your card in, it gets graded a 6, you crack it out the case, you send it back, and it comes back a 10. That kind of changed how I view purchasing cards. Now it's really about buying the card, not the grade, because there are opportunities out there to buy a 7 or 8, crack it, and send it in and get a higher score on a card, or even use it as a negotiation tactic to get the price lowered on a card due to the fact that it's a lower grade card. But I want to show you a couple of cards to where, depending on the grade that a company assigns to it, can make it $100,000 card or a $50 card. And these are a couple of freebies. I think that everyone, if you're starting a collection, want a well-rounded collection, some of the cards I'm going to show you tonight or today will be very good starting points in something like that. So let's get this back to the dual screen. Nope. All right. So here we go. First off, we have a card that everyone should have in their collection. Ken Griffey Jr., 1989 Upper Deck. Now, this one is an old label SGC 8. This card is really, really clean. Now, I have probably 20 of these ungraded. A bunch of cards. My best cards are ungraded, but I have a bunch of these that have not been graded yet. But this is a staple card. If you can get this in a 5, or I would say no less than a 7, because you can get a 7 probably for $30. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe it might be a little more, maybe $40. But that puts you in the game on a Ken Griffey Jr. card. And then as you get into your collecting, you might be able to consolidate some smaller cards, sell them, and then maybe upgrade this to a PSA 9 or something like that, or even a 10. But you start with getting into the game. That way you learn your collection, you learn what you like. Don't just get obsessed with getting a PSA 10. That's going to cost you between $1,500 and $2,000. So that means you won't have the card in your collection. You won't know what it's like to have that card. Get the SGC 8 just to get into the game. But this is one of the key cards that I think everyone should have into their collection. All right, next up. To me, this is the most important card of the 1980s. I don't care what no one says. This card started the market that you guys see now. This card was huge. In 1986, it was a $100 card. When you think about that now, a raw card of a mass-produced set being worth $100, unbelievable. This guy, he ratted on everybody, told us that everyone was taking steroids. He wound up falling on the sword for a whole generation of players. But he was a surefire Hall of Famer before he started the steroid thing happened. And if you know, during that time, there was no player in baseball history that had 500 home runs who were not in the Hall of Fame. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Jose wound up with 476 or 75 home runs, but he pretty much got stopped by baseball. They wouldn't let him back. No teams would let him back in, because they knew if he got 500 home runs, they would have to deal with the conversation of should he be in the Hall of Fame or not. And then also there was a time when he was a 5-tool player, big arm, stole bases, first 40-40 guy. Hit, if I'm not mistaken, it was 142 RBIs, 307 batting average, and 42 home runs or something of that nature. It might have been 121, but 121 RBIs. But this guy was my hero, my idol growing up. I was spitting because he used to spit a lot, and he used to do this thing with his neck to the point my dad used to beat me, because I was copying Jose Canseco. But this was the card that truly made me fall in love with the hobby. So this will forever be a staple for any collection, because you cannot tell the story of baseball without talking